In previous class, I told you about the laboratory preparation of hydrogen gas. And we made a diagram and I labeled the diagram, and which chemical substance is used in this process is also told. And I wrote this balanced chemical equation of the preparation of hydrogen gas in laboratory. But today I want to continue the same, but why particularly this zinc metal is taken, why hydrochloric acid and that is dilute is taken, what is the reason? There are many metals and there are other acids also, but particularly why zinc is selected and why dilute hydrochloric acid is selected, we are going to talk about this. First, this metal, why zinc is selected. I want to talk about other metals and I want to declare why zinc is used. If we use sodium or potassium, all of we know that these are very reactive metals. They are very reactive metals. And what happens? They violently react with acid. And the reaction will be violently react. And if the reaction is very violent, then the reaction cannot be done in laboratory with the students. And so these two metals are not used. And calcium and magnesium are also not used. Calcium or magnesium is also not used. Why they are not used? Because they are expensive. They are expensive in comparison with the zinc. We have to select that method, that process, that chemical which must be cheap also, and that can be performed all over the world in any country, in any level. And that's why calcium and magnesium is comparatively expensive than zinc. That's why also this is not used. And aluminium, why aluminium is not used? Aluminium produces, when aluminium reacts with acid, then it produces a protective layer of aluminium oxide. This layer forms on the surface of aluminium metal. Protective layer. And when protective layer is formed on the surface of the aluminium, then further reaction is prevented. That's why aluminium can also be not used. Now let's talk about another metal, iron, which is very cheap. Iron has to be heated with the acid, otherwise it won't react with the acid. And when we heat, then we have to use sulfuric acid, and if we use sulfuric acid and heat sulfuric acid with this iron, then sulfur dioxide gas produces, or hydrogen sulfide gas. These gases produces instead of hydrogen gas. That's why iron is also not used. Now another, copper and mercury. Can we use copper and mercury? Copper, mercury. We cannot use this copper and mercury also because they are very less reactive. Very less reactive. They are very less reactive, and so reaction doesn't take place. Less reactive, that's why it takes very long time and we cannot perform our work in lab in less time period. That's why these metals are also not used. So zinc is used. Zinc is used because zinc reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid. We are not using hydrochloric acid concentrated also. Zinc reacts with dilute hydrochloric acid with a reasonable rate of reaction, and there's no any other matter which is disadvantage of zinc. That's why zinc is selected. Okay, now we have to take care of other matter also. While making this hydrogen gas in laboratory, we have to take some precautions also. Now I want to say some precautions also while making this gas in laboratory. Number one, we have to take care that impure zinc should be used. Impure zinc should be used, otherwise the reaction doesn't take place in a proper rate. The rate of reaction will be less. And dilute acid should be used. Another point we have to remember, dilute acid should be used. If we use concentrated acid, then hydrogen gas won't form. Hydrogen doesn't form. Hydrogen doesn't form if dilute acid is not used. Now next point, I'm talking about the precautions. We have to be careful about this. All equipment should be cleaned properly. Equipment should be what? Cleaned properly. Cleaned properly. Otherwise, what happens if there is certain amount of salt or acid or something which is not cleaned in laboratory equipments, if they are not cleaned properly, then the result would be nice. I mean to say, hydrogen gas may not form. And all apparatus should be airtight. Look at this diagram. I want to show the same diagram. Looking at this diagram, if it is not airtight at this place or it is not airtight at this place, then what happens? This hydrogen gas which forms in this Thiel funnel will go out through that space which is not airtight. So apparatus should be airtight. And another point, tip of Thiel funnel should be dipped into the dilute acid. Tip of what? Thiel funnel. Thiel funnel should be dipped into dilute HCl. What it mean? Again, I want to show you the same diagram. Look at this. If this tip of the Thiel funnel is not dipped into this, then what happens? The gas which produces by the reaction of dilute hydrochloric acid and zinc goes out from this Thiel funnel. Because tip is not dipped, there is nothing inside this Thiel funnel, and the gas gets outlet, and that's why it should be dipped into this. And there's another also, gas jar should be completely filled with water. Gas jar should be completely filled with water. What it mean? Again, we have to see the diagram. If this gas jar is not completely filled with water, then what happens? A little space is if left, that space contains actually the air, and that's why our hydrogen gas is not pure. Hydrogen gas may not be collected. If there is air, then the mixture of air and hydrogen gas produces in this place. That's why it should be very careful. Okay, next is the tip of delivery tube inside the wolf bottle should be out of hydrochloric acid. Just like it should be dipped into the hydrochloric acid. It means what? The tip of the Thiel funnel, but the tip of this delivery tube should be outside the hydrochloric acid. This can also be written tip of delivery tube should be dipped into, should be outside the dilute HCl in this wolf bottle. Now these are some important precautions which we should take care while making hydrogen gas in laboratory. And sometimes the question is highlighted also like this: in laboratory preparation of hydrogen gas, zinc and sulfuric acid can be used, but pure zinc and concentrated sulfuric acid are not used. Why? this type of particular question may come in examination. We can say that pure zinc is not used because rate of reaction decreases. And concentrated sulfuric acid is not used because it forms a poisonous gas sulfur dioxide instead of hydrogen. This way we have to answer. Okay, today what I told you, why particularly zinc and dilute hydrochloric acid. Dilute hydrochloric acid is used in the preparation of hydrogen gas in the laboratory. Okay, this much for today.